I'm here today to tell you that you should make a start screen for your game a lot earlier than you might think. When I say start screen, I don't mean the trailers that play when the game starts up. I don't mean this screen, which is the one that says press start on it. This used to be called the attract screen because when games were in stores, in little kiosks, this would sit there and then every once in a while it would replay the trailers and then come back to this screen over and over again to literally attract people's attention to the console so they'd come over and play it. When I say start screen, I don't mean this screen, which is the screen that comes up in the game when you push the start button. And when I say start screen, I don't mean the first time user experience with your game, where you push start off that attract screen and it launches into a high budget beginning for your game. I specifically mean this screen, the screen that comes up when you start the game the second time and every time after that give you a place to start a new game, to load your game, and to set options. And it might seem really weird that I'm telling you to make this early, because these days, especially on the consoles, people don't see this screen very much. Often on the consoles, if people are actively playing your game, they just leave the thing in a sleep state and come right back to where they were. They don't get booted back out to this start screen very often. More likely to occur in a multiplayer game where it needs you to sign back into the online services. But it doesn't seem like a very important screen, does it? Here's the argument. This screen actually isn't for your players. I mean, they're going to use it. This screen is for you. I would argue that it's actually one of the most important screens you have from the perspective of showing that you're a real game. During development, it can be very easy to get into the habit of launching the game from the editor, of typing in a bunch of console commands, of having a very rough, very non-final way to get into the game experience. And don't get me wrong, you want these quick ways to get into the game. You want the ability to launch directly into a level from the editor. You want debug commands. They are critical to your team's velocity. But at some point, you're going to start showing this to more senior people within your organization. At some point, you're going to start doing dailies where you start evaluating the state of your game. And if this startup process has really low production values, then that's going to drag down the opinion from that executive. It's going to reduce the effectiveness of your daily, because what happens is it sets a baseline. And that baseline is, this is a game that isn't very close to being done, that isn't very real, that is just a collection of parts. When you put that start screen at the front, then that is changing that message to, oh, this is a game. This is a game that is real, and it just needs to bring its parts together, put a bit more content in, add a bit more polish, and then it's ready to go. This can be critically important with executives who are sometimes making decisions about which games get to live and which games get to die. But it can also be very helpful for your team, because it can set for them this baseline of, I should make my content a little bit more done. I don't need to leave the cap off the toothpaste, because it's time to start making stuff that's final. Dot my I's, cross my T's, put the cap on the toothpaste, because it's time to go. It's time to start making real final stuff. And that can be an incredibly powerful incentive. Now, it doesn't actually have to be the real final thing that you're going to use. You can get away with a flat bitmap and a menu there, and you definitely do want to delay implementing that FTUI experience until your systems and your story are more finalized. So don't paint yourself into a corner, but investing a little bit of time on this screen that people are going to see every single time they start the game is really important. And it's really important to do fairly early, because the people ultimately that are going to start up your game the most of anyone is your team. So give them something that reminds them of the quality bar you're aiming for. Okay, a couple of other reasons to try to convince you further. Some percentage of your team and some percentage of the executives are going to need access to certain options, inverting the y-axis being the most common. And if you have this screen, it's going to encourage you to build at least a prototype version of the options screen. And thinking about your options screen relatively early prevents you from just throwing everything in there, because it has to actually be accessible by your users. And it's going to give those executives a better experience because they'll be able to invert the y-axis in a non-bizarre way. And again, it's going to signal this is a real game with real features that just needs some time to come together. If you're an online game, then this screen is arguably even more important because it's where all of your login and online flow goes. And it can be common to forget about that initial startup flow for online games until really late. And honestly, you kind of want to know how that's going to go. What order you're going to start up the services, ask for people to log in, connect to the repository where people's characters are kept. If you don't think about that, you can end up in a world where this startup flow is really clunky because you don't know the things you think you do until later in the process. And you end up with a screen where you thought you were going to show details of their character, but you're not even logged into the services yet, so you don't know anything about them. So that's it. Make this screen earlier than you might think is necessary. It serves useful purposes for development, and having it earlier will let you signal that this is a real game that people should pay attention to, signal to your team that they should be making final content, and let you test out a few things around your flow. Hopefully this was useful. Special thanks to my members. They help keep this channel running. If you are interested in becoming a member, there's a link down in the description. If you found this useful, hit that thumbs up so more people can see it. Tell the algorithm that you enjoyed it. If you know of someone else that would find this useful, please share it with them. I will see you again soon. Thank you.